even not just the school being unique, but all of the students being unique in the sense that like we all bring different things to the table, different things to the school. We all have our strengths and talents, and it really showed, and we showcased that at Holy Name. And then I would say second is driven. Again, because I was surrounded by so many high performing people, there was always a bit of like friendly competition, whether it's academics or even in spirit stuff. We had our houses like Bella, Electra, like we were all for those spirit events. And like, for example, like Terry Fox run, we got so competitive about who can run the farthest or the fastest. So I would say driven is the second word. And I think the third word would definitely be like collaborative. Like I said, I felt always safe to work with others. I loved group projects, which most people hate. But I think it's because I enjoyed working with my classmates because I knew everybody was going to do their part. Like I never had an experience where like I had a bad teammate, which you get a lot in university. So I think high school, I was very lucky in that sense.
Thanks. Colleen, what about you?
So my first word sort of bounces from Isabella's, but it was empowering, because I was always challenged to be the best version of myself and to continue to learn. And I also personally found it very empowering to be surrounded by such high achieving girls and high achieving women. And I think I definitely took that for granted. Like I was very lucky. I grew up in a household that really, I didn't really know that women were treated differently until I got a lot older, just because I was lucky that my family really like values strong women. And then also, so obviously does Holy Name. And so it's really cool to be surrounded by people that want to challenge each other and want you to be the best version of yourself. So I would say empowering was my first word. Sort of bouncing from one of my previous answers, the second one was compassionate. I think that is lacking in a lot of schools, is remembering that students are whole people that are developing and growing and learning too. And that was never missing from Holy Name. In fact, I think it was emphasized at Holy Name that academics are very, very important, and you're going to be challenged and you're going to learn. But I think you're also going to learn about who you are and maybe who you want to be, which is why compassionate is my second word. And then my third word, I sort of touched on this, would be challenging. I definitely was pushed to the limits of my potential and maybe beyond. Actually, I learned that I love to think outside the box, and I think the support and the knowledge that my teachers really wanted the best for me and the best for me as a student and an individual allowed me to push myself past the limits academically, and try new things and try new subjects that maybe I was really scared to learn about. And so I think one of the reasons my Holy Name was because I knew it was going to be challenging academically, and I personally think that allowed me to grow in my knowledge, but then also in knowing what I can do later in life. So yeah, those would be my three words.
Okay, thank you. So can I just ask you then, how prepared were you academically for university?
I don't know if I can say over prepared, but like I was very prepared. I really felt, I didn't feel that there was a huge shift from high school to university, except that there was a lot more reading in university, which is kind of par for the course. But I would say I didn't feel swamped or overwhelmed or anything like that. And to be honest, I think the biggest differentiating factor for myself was I learned a lot about fundamentals that you need to know at university. Like, for example, I learned really well how to cite things in essays and science-based papers, which is a huge thing that I didn't know people didn't learn, because I've been learning it since grade 7. And so I really felt that the foundational things that I needed for my program, and I flip-flop programs at university. I started in the arts and then ended up in business. So that I didn't notice a difference in that either. Like the whole foundational learning, I really felt prepared and was not overwhelmed at all at university, which I can't even say the same for some of my friends and even some of my siblings who didn't go to Holy Name and went to a different high school. There was a huge contrast between that sort of thing when I arrived at school.
And what about you, Isabella?
Yeah, for me, similar to Colleen, I did not feel overwhelmed or anything when I went to university. Like, I studied mechanical engineering, so as you can imagine, that had its own part of overwhelming, just the workload and the labs and things like that. But academically, I felt very prepared. And even just my time management skills, I think, was the biggest important thing for me in university, because I was a varsity swimmer in the States, and it was a similar environment, right, as Holy Name, where, you know, I was still waking up early and I was still going to school. If anything, I think it was even easier in university because you have classes and you have breaks, whereas in high school, like, you're in school for 6 hours straight. So in a way, I thought in terms of time management, I had more leeway to do my homework, to get some rest, take care of myself. So I think academically, I was very prepared. I never felt like I was struggling more than others. Of course, like in those weed out courses in first year, it was definitely a challenge, but I made it through, no problem. And yeah, I felt very prepared.
Thanks. So if there was one thing you could change about the school for the better, what would it be?
Should I go first?
Yes, please.
Okay. So this might be biased because I'm a business student doing my MBA. But what I found both in business school and as well as working for the past, I don't even know, 7 years, or no, sorry, yeah. But like, I think presentations and public speaking is something that we can definitely add more to the curriculum. Like, we did quite a bit of it at Holy Name, but I think even having some skill building in terms of getting rid of filler words or just being comfortable in front of a crowd, because it's a huge skill set that I think I lost when I went to university in engineering. I only presented once in 4 years. So you can imagine that was difficult for me. And when you go into the workplace, you're constantly leading meetings, you're constantly speaking to leadership, and that could be very nerve-wracking. And I think I was super lucky to get that exposure at Holy Name, standing in front of a crowd, performing in front of a crowd, and that put me ahead of my peers in the sense that, like, I was more comfortable with public speaking. When I went to business school, all of my classmates were always surprised with how comfortable I was, but they don't understand inside I was very nervous. But I think Holy Name really trained me to work on that. And I think just formally adding it more and maybe having like improv or Toastmaster clinics in the curriculum would be really beneficial and empowering for the girls in the school. Sorry, you're on mute.
That's okay.
And you, Colleen?
I actually agree with Isabella. I think that's a great idea. I think for me, and you'll probably notice this in quite a few of my answers, but I think emphasizing the strengths that the school has in their arts program, is something that I think would really help. I think it's the hidden gem of the school. And I will acknowledge that I've been out of the school for a while, so that may have changed. But I think at the time when I was there, our math and science for the STEM program is excellent. And Isabella might be able to speak to this better because she went further education in that area and I didn't. But I would say that like math and science are very strong and is definitely something to be emphasized for sure. But I think in that emphasis, we sometimes forget about the arts side of the school, which is equally as strong, and to me equally as important, because I think what has differentiated me in my classrooms and especially actually in business school, is the fact that I spent a lot of my extracurriculars and a lot of my elective programs in high school in the arts, and really allowed me to have kind of a different perspective when I join a group or doing a presentation. And I think that is something that could be improved upon, is just acknowledging the fact that our arts teachers are amazing, and the arts program and the inclusion of being able to be part of the St. Mike's musicals and have an amazing choir is something that should be celebrated just as equally as the STEM program.
Absolutely. So what do you think families would find most surprising about the school, Colleen?
Okay, to be honest, I've been gone long enough that I do think that's a bit of a difficult question to answer. But not to steal my answer from before, but I think that would be one of the big things, is how great the arts program is. Because it isn't, I wouldn't even think of Holy Name as an arts school, because you think of like traditional art schools like Etobicoke School of the Arts or Cossera and their arts programs. And like, granted, we don't have the same emphasis as those schools do on arts, but I would say that that part of my experience at Holy Name was very unexpected and very positive. And so I think that's a surprise, just because it is equally as good as the STEM program, and the STEM program is excellent. So I think that would be something that's surprising when you first join the school, is how much we incorporate music and dance and art into every day. You walk down the halls and you can see it in the school, when we're allowed to walk down the halls, but you can see the impact that it has on all of the students and the environment. And so I think that would be something that would surprise me if I didn't know anything about the school.
Thanks. And you, Isabella?
Yeah, similar to Holly, like, I don't know what today is like, but back in 2013, I think the biggest thing that like my family was surprised about and what my parents were surprised about was how much there was in terms of like extracurriculars that you could do at such a small school. Like, I'm sure it's bigger now, but like when we were, 2013 was like, I was the second graduating class, so it was much smaller, and my parents were like, how are you involved in so much stuff? And I had to write it down because like there's such a long list, like from swimming, cross country, track and field, soccer, DECA, Model UN, choir, winter camp, leadership camp. Like, it goes on forever, and I did all of these things, and my parents were just so surprised with how involved I was and how much availability there was for students to participate outside of the classroom. And I think that's thanks to like the amazing faculty and staff that organize it, right? Like, it wouldn't exist without them, or you know, leading these activities. And I had such a breadth of experience in my 4 years at Holy Name. So I think that was a really surprising thing that Holy Name had, especially for my parents. They're just like, why are you so busy all the time?
And so just a last question before we move on to the parents is, what advice would you give to students who are just entering the school?
Yeah, for me, and I give this advice to not just high school students, I give it to prospective students in the MBA program as well. Like, I always say, try anything and everything that you're interested in. Even if it's not something you like in the end, because I find no matter what, there's always going to be something that you learn from that experience, and transferable skills that you can bring forward in the future. And like, I think a perfect example of that is, like Colleen said, like, I was very focused in STEM. I did all of the sciences, and I wasn't really sure if it was something I was really interested in. I just wanted to challenge myself. I wanted to see if I could do it. So I took all 3 sciences in grade 11, took physics and chemistry in grade 12, and then decided to pursue an engineering degree. And in the end, I'm a business student. So I completely pivoted from, like, everybody's always worried about what you want to do in your undergrad. And it's great to have goals, and that was my goal at the time, but it's also okay to change your career path and your interests, because everything that I learned from the STEM program and engineering, like the analytical skills, the time management, the data analytics, all of those little skills are all transferable in the business industry. And I don't regret anything for taking 4 years of STEM and engineering, because it really helped me be successful in the MBA program. And I think everybody should be willing to take those risks and jump once in a while, even though it can be a little scary, because you'll realize you'll learn a lot from it.
Thank you. What about you, Colleen?
I would say I totally agree, actually, because I jumped programs as well. I started off university with the track to being an English teacher, and then I ended up getting my accounting designation. So it's very different. But I would say sort of similar would be to get involved. Like anytime there's an opportunity to sign your name on a form, whether it's for a 2-hour volunteer position or it's to run for student government, just do it, because I think that's what sets Holy Name apart, is the fact that there are so many things that you can get involved with, and you might try something, as Isabella said, that you don't really like at all, but you might meet your best friends there. So I think the things that I look back on when I look at high school is, I don't want to say is less so academic, because I think that was really important, but the experiences that I had interwoven with my academics were all of the things that I volunteered for and got involved with. And so I think that would be, no matter how old you are when you started the school, I was 12, I started in grade 7 and hit the ground running and really just wanted to participate. And I am not athletic at all, but I joined all the sports teams that would have me and really learned lots of really important skills. And the biggest one would be confidence and my ability to try new things. And I think, especially when you go off to university, it's a much bigger pool, and having that skill set already and knowledge that you can try something new and maybe fail at it or maybe succeed at it was really, really great. So I say, like, get involved. Every girl that comes to school, get involved if you can.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay, so we're just going to move on to a few questions now with our current parents, and then we come back to both Isabella and Colleen if there's any questions from the audience for you. Thank you. So I'm just going to start with you, Gina. So why did you choose the school originally, and what do you appreciate most about the school now that you're here?
Hi, Gazelle. Thanks for having me. And wow, it was really impressive listening to Colleen and Isabella. I can't imagine my daughter Isabella in grade 8 graduating, turning into such accomplished young ladies. I'm sure Laura's thinking the exact same thing. It's blown me away, actually, right, Laura? Anyway, it's hard to follow such accomplished young ladies. I'm feeling a loss for words, but I'll try to do them some justice. I went to an all-girls school. I graduated in 1986, and my feelings about an all-girls Catholic education were wonderful. I had nothing negative to say about my education. And looking back, I wanted nothing other than that for my daughter. And when the opportunity to come to Holy Name of Mary presented itself, I remember reaching out to you, Gazelle, as you recall, many years ago. And we had a really fruitful and healthy dialogue. And the opportunity finally came to fruition in grade 7. And Isabella was really, really excited. 2 things were really important to me. Colleen took my breath away when she talked about the creativity of the school, because I believe, and I am a businesswoman, I've been in the investment management business for over 25 years. And without creativity, you cannot be successful in business. And stop. It's just that simple. And so I believe strongly that we have to foster creativity in our education. And many, many years ago, I had a friend of mine who I worked with, and his daughter was one of the original graduates from Holy Name of Mary, and she was attending there, and she was part of the choir. And he would tell me all the time about how she would sing in the choir, and she was going off to this competition and that competition and running around. And back then, when it was allowed, they would go off to Europe. Do you remember those trips? I mean, I would give anything to have participated in something like that when I was at my all-girls school. And I kept thinking, and this is before I even had Isabella, wouldn't it be great if I had a daughter and she could go to a school like that? And lo and behold, all these years later, my daughter loves music, plays the clarinet, and because of being at Holy Name Mary, loves to sing now, shockingly. So the reason I brought her here was because I wanted a Catholic education. I wanted an all-girls education, but I wanted one that was founded in creativity, not just academics. And that's not because academics aren't important. Academics have to be the default. Everyone knows that academics are important, but in conjunction and as a complement to that, they cannot be the only thing that's important. We must have the other anchors, and the other anchors for me were creativity as well as an education grounded in our faith. So those are the reasons for me.
Thank you. What about you, Laura?
So our experience is probably quite different. We came from the public system. And so we were looking, we had some basic needs that needed to be met that we didn't feel were being met in the public system. One of them was feeling heard as a family. So we felt that we really needed to have a voice and have that voice heard. We are children's main advocates. And so we felt previously that we didn't have that opportunity and there was no voice. Having a Catholic school was important to us as a family. The all-girls education, we did a lot of research and found that that would be best for our girls. I have three girls, one in grade 6, like you mentioned, one in grade 8, one in grade 10, and very different girls. And so we really felt that we were looking for a school that would take their individuality really seriously and present not a program that was, one size fits all. My girls span the continuum in all different ways in terms of personality, in terms of academics, in terms of their athletic ability. We cover the whole continuum. And so I needed a place that wouldn't just meet one of their needs, but meet all of their needs. And we've found that at Holy Name.
Excellent, thank you. So just piggybacking on that, so how would you describe the values of the school, Lara, and the values of the families of the school community?
I think the values of the school and other parents that we got to know once we joined the school, one of the great things was that we really felt they were very similar to our family values, that we were looking to raise strong and confident girls, that we were looking to raise girls that didn't feel limited by their environment, but instead felt encouraged and welcomed and strengthened by their environment. So that was one of the nicest things that we found, was that our values seem to be shared values. So we've come to get to know many parents and other families, and we all seem to have the same approach, that yes, we think education is very important and we value education. And so obviously we're in an independent school primarily, or one of the main reasons would be that, but also that we need our girls, to feel like they can imagine themselves in whatever way they want, and that they will be supported by the school and by the environment in that imagination. So that's, I think, one of the main values and things. And in addition to that, the spiritual aspect of the educational environment was really important to us as well. So there really aren't, to my knowledge, any Catholic all-girls schools, at least we live in the West End, that would sort of check those boxes.
Right, yeah. And for you, Gina?
I think it's really important in today's day and age that our girls feel that they can be empowered. It's hard. I work in the investment business, and Isabella was talking earlier about studying, getting her MBA. It's still a world where women are very ill represented, and being empowered to realize in high school that you could do whatever you want is still a message that I think needs to continue to resonate, that we have the choice. You have the choice to be a teacher if you still want to be a teacher. You have the choice to be a stay-at-home mom if you want to be a stay-at-home mom. But you have the choice to be a money manager. You have the choice to be an accountant. You have the choice to be an engineer. You have the choice. And any of those choices are okay. And so I think all those things are important. And speaking to the family values, I think all of us at the school are united, I believe, in our faith. I'd like to believe that. It's an all-girls Catholic school. We are united in that belief, or else we wouldn't be there. And we're united because we all have girls. We all believe that, you know, maybe this sounds out of place, but listen, if boys can do it, girls can do it too, right? Listen, Laura's got 3, okay? 3. I can barely do it with 1. So imagine what that must feel like. So I think, you know, we want to be inspired. I think all of us, I go to the school some days, I mean, at those parent association meetings, sometimes it's difficult, right? I mean, what are we going to do to raise awareness, to do all these different things? But it's also inspiring. It's inspiring to figure out what we can do to make things better for all of us. And it's inspiring to see some of the other parents. As I said, they don't have one other child. They've got 2 and 3 children, and they're making it work. So I think all of us have all that in common. We want to do the best for our daughters. We want them to turn out like these 2 girls here. Wouldn't that be amazing? So there you have it.
Absolutely. They are amazing, the 2 of them, and your daughters as well. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So how would your daughter describe her overall experience at the school?
Starting with me?
Yep. Yes, please.
She likes it. The most frustrating part was the pandemic. You know, imagine her first year, she was so nervous last year, grade 7, starting to make relationships, right? You just start feeling after Christmas, you're just starting to make some friends. They're starting to kind of solidify. And then all of a sudden, March break and whammo, everything kind of fell by the wayside. And I think that was really, really difficult for the first year students. And my daughter would be one of those students, because all the relationships that you thought by the end of the year were going to be sealed in terms of closeness and whatnot were unfortunately not able to come to their fruition, right? Isabella is kind of shaking her head. You get it, right? I mean, you have to be with someone, you have to bond, you have to be able to kind of do things together in order to connect. And I think that's the sadness of it. The good news is that one of the things I love about the school is the co-curricular program, which is one of the things that I think we need to highlight. And the girls kind of, Colleen and Isabella, both spoke about it at the peripheries in terms of the extracurricular program that we have at Holy Name of Mary. I really think it is a highlight. And it is a testament to the teaching staff. And the co-curricular program, for those that aren't aware, allows us to be able to cross-pollinate so many different courses into different environments. So for example, band this year is a co-curricular. Singing is a co-curricular. There's just so many different things that the kids are doing. They've got robotics, they've got all these different things. French is a co-curricular. They've got so many different ones. You know, you talked about Model UN, Isabella, in the past. There's so many different examples. There's flag football. My daughter, who is now a quarterback, you know, who would have thought Isabella is a quarterback, right? For the last 5 years of her life, she hated singing because she didn't think she had a voice. Well, Miss Maroney solved that problem because my daughter Isabella can't stop singing. Now, if you knew Isabella, you'd know that she hated singing before 3 weeks ago when Miss Maroney helped her find her voice. Now, if that isn't a testament to what Colleen said and what Isabella said about try something different, plant a seed and a flower will bloom. These are the things that grow the kind of self-confidence that 10 and 15 years from now allow you to realize that you can do anything that you set your mind to. even something that you think would have been impossible. So I think this is amazing stuff that we're doing.
Awesome. Thank you. And what about you, Lara? How would your daughters describe their experience?
My girls, the biggest thing my husband and I saw when they first started at Holy Name last year is that they were excited to go to school. And for some of them, that was actually a new experience, right? They love going to school. They like it, not just to be with their friends, but they've enjoyed the teachers and the way of teaching and all these other experiences they've been able to have. And what I think is fascinating is that you would think that under these pandemic conditions that would have changed. So I was expecting, okay, well, last year they got, like Gina said, my daughter also played flag football and did all these, there were so many sports, I couldn't even handle her schedule.
Yeah.
And and my daughter in high school took a lot of leadership opportunities and did all kinds of things. But this year, clearly there's some restrictions. And I thought, I wonder how they're going to react to that. But they're really still excited to go to school. So I think that has to say something about the school environment and what's going on there. They come home, they're happy. I know they're basic things, but these basic things were critical to us as a family, that the girls be happy, that the girls be excited to go to school, that they be in a supportive environment, that they would feel heard, that they would feel seen, that they would have opportunities to engage in things that they hadn't had opportunities to engage in before. They're not maybe, to some people it may seem basic, to us it was everything. And so I think if anyone were to ask my three girls, how much if to rate their enjoyment of the school out of 10, they'd likely say 11 or 12.
That's fantastic. Thank you for that. So can I just ask that, how responsive is the school to parents, Laura?
Well, that's why I think it was a differential also from compared, again, our experience was coming from the public system. Everybody's going to have a different experience. And I think I mentioned before that we didn't feel our voices as parents were heard. And this was a big problem. So we felt completely the opposite, actually, at Holy Name. There's the basic things, like you send an email, you get a response right away. There's also the more complex things of, this is a specific issue related to my daughter and I need to have some dialogue around this. And the willingness of having those conversations, I think, where it was really important to us. And then a more really basic level, I remember going to my first parent-teacher interview night and leaving, and my husband and I looking at each other going, wow, these teachers really know my kids. These were not generic comments. These were not just something that they got from some computer or something. No, they really, what I heard were things that really resonated to me as a parent. All the compliments and all of the things maybe that needed to be improved, all of those things were very specific to my girls, and I knew that the teachers really knew my girls and were able to communicate that to me very strongly. So I think the responsiveness is great. I think that I have not had any problems any time that I needed a quick answer or some support.
My experience, I'd like to echo Lara. The only difference was I came from another private school. So Isabella didn't have the issues. I didn't have the issues in terms of the public education where she was, ignored and in a classroom of 30 or 40 people. We had the opposite experience. Her classroom size was 4 kids. So it was very, very different. However, I will say at Holy Name of Mary, the teaching staff and the head of school and the office staff are of extremely high caliber. Carrie and her leadership, as far as I'm concerned, are the gold standard. I have nothing, I could never say a negative word about her leadership, about the team that she's assembled, about her execution. Imagine taking over a school and then being thrust upon a pandemic and then having to execute an online learning plan. Not just executing on it, but executing on it with excellence. I'll never forget when Isabella came home and told me that the online learning plan was going to involve me in 2030 or whatever it was, and it had something to do, or 2032, and it had to be a whole project. Do you remember, Lara, about what would happen when they graduated? And they had to put together a budget, and they had to determine what their life was going to be like when they graduated from school, had to put together a resume, had to put together a budget, move out of their house, etc., etc., etc. And I said to myself, this is a mind-blowing co-curricular. If they can do this at age 12, they will have executed on something that people at the age of 30 have yet to be able to do flawlessly. And again, I'm in the money management business and I'm a financial planner. People can't do this at age 30, okay? So as far as I was concerned, what they did during the pandemic and executed on was a growth, an exponential growth in learning that they wouldn't have gotten had they still been in school. So I owe that to the teaching staff and to the academic head. So I have to echo Laura's thoughts, Laura's words, because the staff has been excellent. When I went to the parent-teacher interviews, I said the same thing. I sat there with each and every teacher and I thought, look at the anecdotes they're giving us, right, Laura? It's like, really? These little anecdotes that they would tell us, they weren't generic, you know, oh, your daughter's a good student, you know, which is the kind of stuff you're kind of used to, right? Or boy, you know, she really should work harder. It was specific about a specific situation. So you really left kind of blown away by your daughter is not a number. I know her and she's important to me. And I think that gives you the reality that the school is small enough that she's not getting left out, that she's known and she's not a number, but it's large enough so there are enough opportunities for her so that she can grow within that environment. And I think that's the perfect combination.
It's perfect. So I just want to end with my last question now to you, Gina, is, so if the same question we asked the alum as well is, if the school were to be represented as a single person, what would its personality be like in just 3 words and why?
Okay, see the girls, Colleen took my word, which was empowering. So I'm not happy with her, but it's because she's so bright. So the next word I think is inspiring. So I think it does inspire the girls to reach a higher potential. There's a lot of things going on that the girls might not even realize because their brains are developing. You know, Isabella made that point, you know, or maybe it was Colleen. I didn't realize what was going on. Maybe Isabella, that was you. Like, I didn't realize what was going on. I didn't realize what was happening until after I left, you know? And so this is what happens when education is good. You don't kind of realize how good you got it until you go somewhere else and you say, oh, I didn't realize what was happening here that set me up for future growth. And I think that that's what's happening in a lot of the programs that's happening, especially in the creativity that's being fostered at the school. This is a real big deal. And again, I speak back to the fact that, you know, I'm on the investment management side of things. So I'm always in the money management, which is numbers and data and accounting focused and whatnot. But the truth is, the people that are really successful in our business are the ones that are creative. And so I think it's really important that we look at that. So a lot of the assignments that I see the girls doing that are focused on creativity, focused on art, focused on music, they're not just, and I say this to Isabel all the time, you know, when you're doing something on Salvador Dali, or they're doing something on one of the, you know, big artists of the time, it's not so much about the art itself. It's what it's creating in you. It's what it's allowing you to stretch and grow and reach. This is really powerful stuff. So I think inspiring them to bigger and better things, that's probably one of the big words. I think awakening is another one. It's an awakening in them, a belief that there's so much more out there. There's so much possibility. Just reach out and grab it. I mean, gosh, the world is so big. You know, I say this to Isabel all the time. We live in Etobicoke. The world is not Etobicoke. The world is not Mississauga. The world is big. Isabella went to school in Boston. I mean, and Boston's just over there. It's not, but the world is big, isn't it, ladies? And we need to stop limiting ourselves. And so I think that the school allows the girls to be inspirational in their thinking. And that's a real gift, okay? And lastly, I know this word's probably been beaten down, but really creativity. Let's be creative. And creativity in all different walks of life. One of the things I think that we haven't spoken a lot about today, but based on creativity, I'd like to speak to, and that is the creativity of the written word. That's something that I just like to take a minute on. I believe strongly, as I always have, that being able to communicate in words is so powerful. Ladies, it's so powerful. Look at today. We've had no spreadsheets up. We've had no billboards. We've had nothing. We've been able to speak through our words, to be able to hopefully persuade people that our school is awesome, that it's the place that we will, that we believe strongly is an attractive place that other people should want to bring their girls, to educate their girls, to allow them to grow and become responsible young ladies, just like the two that are right here. But it's all through words, and it's through the creativity of language. And one of the things that I've really, really noticed in the last 2 years that Isabella has been there has been so much done in the written word. Speech writing competition last year. I hope that we continue with that. Healthy debate, not emotional debate, ladies, healthy debate. In a world where we're being overcome by emotion, we need to stop that. We need to speak, and we need to take two sides of a debate, and we need to communicate as intellectuals, because we need to be in command of our emotions and focus on debate. And so I think the creativity of words, they matter. Words matter. And at this school, I will only highlight, because she's at the tip of my tongue, Mrs. Prillo, who is, as far as I'm concerned, the yardstick for measurement for all things perfection in teaching. She's the head of the middle school, academic head of the middle school. Colleen, I think do you know Mrs. Prillo? Isabella, were you there? Was Mrs. Prillo there when you guys were there? Anyway, I only speak to her because, as I said, she was Isabella's teacher in English, and what she did to foster creative writing in the middle school, as far as I'm concerned, is the Cadillac standard, in my opinion. And I think we need to continue to do that. So creativity in writing, I throw my hand in the air. It's important in all disciplines, whether it's chemical engineering, whether it's MBA candidates. Isabella, learn to write. Okay, learn to write. Anyway, that's my last word.
Oh, thank you. And what about you, Lara?
I thought this was an interesting question, because I don't conceptualize this school as one personality, one entity. So it took me some time to even trying to think of what that meant even for me, because I do believe that we have some common values and some common aspects to how we approach the educational experience. But I think that one of the words that came to mind was diversity. Like, although we have some common, spiritual guiding values and educational guiding, there's a lot of differences in the school. There's a lot of girls. My girls are all different, and their peers are all different, and all of that has to mesh in the school. I can't conceptualize it as one thing. So I think that that's important to know, that although it's a Catholic school and although it's a all-girls school, there is a lot of different types of people and personalities at the school. And my girls have been exposed to a lot of learning in terms of different people, different backgrounds, different personalities, and what that brings. And I think in the city that we live in, it basically represents our reality. So that would be one word for me. I think that supportive is another word. I'm a mom of 3 girls. I think the experience of bringing up girls is very different from bringing up boys, although I don't know because I don't have boys. But I imagine that it's very different. And knowing that I'm sending my girls into an environment that is supportive, an environment that is not, it's gonna challenge them, but in a gentle and safe way, is critical. And so I feel like that represents the school. And the last word that came to mind is advocate. I am an advocate for my children, and I want the school to be an advocate for my children as well. And I do believe that that's the case. I think that, you know, when, I think that maybe it was Colleen that I heard speak actually when I went to one of these informational nights one night. And I don't know, maybe it was to you that mentioned that you could imagine anything and the school could make it happen for you. So it just takes you, as a student, saying, I would like to be able to do this or that, or explore this or that. And the staff can make it happen. And I think that's amazing.
Perfect, wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm not sure, are there any questions from our audience? Well, there's no questions from our audience, so I just want to go ahead and say thank you very much to our panelists. Thank you, Isabella, Colleen, Gina, Lara, for all of your very your insights into the school and all of your experiences. I appreciate that greatly. I appreciate your time as well. So thank you, everyone, for being here today. I hope you had a chance to learn a bit more about Holy Name of Mary College School.